A very smart person once told me you need 4 characters in every founding team. One is the James Bond, jumping out of the airplane with your weapon loaded at any point in time. And then he said something very empathetic. He said, Gero, you're not a real entrepreneur until you fire a co-founder.
Okay.
Also on the kind of hard skill side, I think code gives, focuses on all of the right things, and you should listen very closely to all of the things that you take in here. It's always operating in a fog, the same in a startup as well as in a big setting like this. You always have fog around you. Try to. Where's the next obstacle?
All right. Welcome everybody. Gero, thanks for being here. So as you know, we do it in English because you know Code University already. Maybe for all of you who don't know Gero yet, Gero founded Signavio and did an exit nearly 1 billion. And we will talk today a bit about your story, but I also want to ask you some questions about your leadership style and how to overcome problems and everything. Because the story is something I guess you told a lot, so I will ask you some different questions. And then I would also give it to the audience to ask you some questions. And you already did the question I wanted to do first. You asked everyone here how everyone is doing, but I wanted to ask you, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, phenomenal. It's my son's 13th birthday, so if you do the math, you will notice he was born on 12/12/12.
Very good.
I have 3 kids, and for 2, I always have to look up the birthdays. For one, I can very easily remember it.
That's good. Yeah. Maybe my first question would be that for the people who don't know Signavio and what you did, can you explain your story in only 60 seconds?
60 seconds. So, software engineer by background, we wanted to solve a technical challenge, and that was building something complex inside of the web browser. Started an open source project, no commercial afterthought. The only way to make great technology survive is to make customers pay for it. This is how the company started, and it turned out it was the most unsexy space you could ever imagine, but it turned out to hit a nail and come at the right time. The market is endless. Now we're about $500 million in revenue, or $500 million in ARR, and still growing at 50%. So so the market potential is pretty endless for what we're in, but we only discovered that over time.
I mean, you did kind of a different approach. Normally people say, first find the problem, then the solution, and you dived into the technology and kind of created the solution for a problem you didn't even know.
Yeah.
What kind of projects did you before to come to this? Because I mean, was it your first project you ever did?
Pretty much.
Really?
Well, so so we had one idea. We wrote a business plan. We called it Olondo at the time. It was pre-Zalando. Somehow the companies all had these types of names. Olondo, the idea was to do language training remotely. So you have your Spanish teacher in Guatemala, so that's why you pay a low hourly fee, and you do it kind of through your Xbox equipment. So this was the initial idea, and it proved to be technically impossible, and to acquire teachers proved to be very hard. So we dumped that idea very quickly. That was my first project.
Okay, and then you started the second project.
But so I studied at Hasso-Plattner Institute, and my professor, his group was called Business Process Technology. So the question was, how can we use technology to automate more or to work better and differently in large companies? So this is how I knew this topic of business process management. And that happened to be then the context that we found our first customer in.
Yeah, I mean, it was first, when I know it correctly, it was a program to draw in, right? And then it developed because you saw users using it kind of differently than you thought.
Yes, so what we built in the web browser was, the only things that were there technologically were websites like eBay or email or Wikipedia, Google, These were like your usual web things, but you didn't have much application. So the first application we saw was basically a Microsoft Word. It looked like Microsoft Word, but it ran inside of the web browser without plugins. And that company got acquired by Google. Now it's Google Docs. So this was kind of our inspiration to say, if somebody can build a text editor that doesn't feel like a web page, but it feels like a desktop application, but it sits inside of the web browser, what else can you build? And so we said nobody has built a graphical drawing tool inside of the web browser yet. So let's build the PowerPoint in the web browser, if you will, or the Visio in the web browser, if you want to stick to the Office suite. And this is how it started. And then, you can draw all kinds of pictures, but then the question is, what would be the one drawing that people pay thousands or tens of thousands of euros for because it's so valuable? And that turned out to be process maps. So where you discuss how a company works. So this was a coincidence that we, moved into that space, and customers were willing to pay pretty significant amount of money for a drawing tool.
And I already said that your approach is kind of different, that you came from the technology and then found your users. Would you do it the same way again, or would you flip it today?
So today, we live in a very interesting time with kind of AI native companies in two angles. One is you can build software so much faster than 10 or 15 years ago. So you can basically build a really compelling first version of a product in a day or in a week. This was not the case 10 or 15 years ago. So this is one, but also the cards get reshuffled completely in terms of what the products do, right? So if you're doing agentic for X, most likely you're among the first to do it these days. So kind of from now in the next 3 years, we're going to see a massive wave of new companies emerging that will, have the dominant ones for the next 15 years among them, right? So I feel like we're in a similar phase like when cloud and SaaS became mainstream, because then when you build a first SaaS for X, that was already something. But back to your question, because it has become so easy and so fast to build a company, you better be very smart about it. And you either have a differentiation that lasts forever, or even better, you're very good at product management and understanding kind of where does technology, product management is the usual, bringing desirability, commercial viability, and technical feasibility all together and making sure it aligns. So back to your question, would I do it differently today? Yes, absolutely. Because right now I feel like you don't have the time anymore to just, build things for 3 years and then hope something comes out of that. But you can measure traction very, very quickly these days.
And so you would go out and first sell then build, I guess, in this kind of sense?
This fake it until you make it was more the motto when it was hard to build stuff, right? Then you needed to sell, and then it took you 2 years to grow into it. I feel like this is not even necessary today anymore, because you can build stuff so quickly that you can make it real very quickly. Not everything that is required. So for example, if you sell to a small, let's say in B2B, you sell to a small company versus a big company, the requirements are quite different, because the big one, they will want to have all of the enterprise grade stuff, SSO, scalability, security certifications, 15,000 integrations, right? Which small customers typically don't. So some things just take time to build out and grow into, but kind of core value proposition, core functionality, you can build very, very fast.
Do you have like one area where you're very interested in right now? Where would you say like, okay, if you would do your own company again, in which field would you go and what kind of thing?
So I get there's two fields in general. either you build the shovels or you build application level AI. The shovels, I feel I have, I just looked at it's called the $1 trillion software stack. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't seen it yet, please have a look at it. Because it maps out, Andreessen Horowitz, they published it like a month ago or 2 months ago, kind of like laying out what is kind of the tool stack to build software these days. And then they have like a nice market map with all of the startups in that space and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of problem to be solved there and a lot of money to be made. I was never a tool person, so I would probably more naturally gravitate towards the application space. And there, building a software company, you need to bring two things together. One is deep passion for the problem and building a very compelling product for it, but at the same time make sure that the go-to-market that you build around that kind of matches the product that you have. So one of my favorite examples is a company called Sonia AI, which I feel does a phenomenal job. They focus on dentists. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the problem that they solve is you need to document the procedure when you're kind of drilling holes into the teeth and fix them, all the way to producing an invoice for the health insurance company to kind of pay the money for the procedure. So, and this is a very painful exercise right now. So a dentist on average spends 1.5 to 2 hours per day just producing and reviewing kind of medical documentation. And you need rather reliable and expert assistants to help you on that journey. So Sonia AI value proposition is very simple. You as a dentist save 90 minutes. You get back 90 minutes per day. And you generate 15 to 20% more revenue out of the same procedure that you do, because typically you forget to document stuff. And then you don't get the money from the health insurance back for it. So it's a very simple value proposition. The technology is scribe technology, but kind of domain specific with the ability to like really make it work for the dentist, all the way to plugging into the systems that produce the invoices and charge for health insurance companies. But the even more beautiful thing is the go-to-market model they build around that, right? How do you generate leads? How do you get in contact with dentists at scale? And how do you build kind of a narrative and an easy way to buy, where in their case, they have like an 85% conversion rate. The moment they get somebody to a web demo, they convert 85% of those people within the first meeting. So kind of the last 5 minutes of the meeting is they basically sent them a DocuSign order form, right? That gets signed. So, and this is for me mind-blowing because it's like a perfect application for AI. It's hard to imagine that ChatGPT just replicates that readily, because you need quite a bit of domain expertise about dentistry kind of built in. So it optimizes on the last mile for dentists, kind of on the product front. But then coupled with a go-to-market model that is just so efficient and working like clockwork is amazing. They went to market last year in September. The first time I met them was in December, 3 months later, and they had signed on 500 dentistries at that point already.
That's very fast.
500 in 3 months. So this is, for me, kind of a perfect example of the new world, where you fall in love with the problem. The problem is, in this case, dentistries are, the documentation piece of dentistries is like it was 40 years ago. Huge potential to bring AI in, and then solve it, bam, hit it like a nail. It took them, I don't know when they started the company, September they went to market first, probably 6, 7, 8 months prior they started the company. So these are the types of cycles that are possible, right? But also don't stress out if your ideas don't take up like that. Because of course it's always good to point to the success stories, and reality is much harder for most people.
talking about reality and maybe going a bit back, not from the business side, but more of like the challenges that come with it. So to find product market fit is the one thing, but to sustain your company inside is something completely different, like leadership and everything. And I mean, what I heard is you are really harmony seeking. And how did you deal with like really tough decisions and also tough things with employees, for example?
Most things worked well most of the time. Either we got lucky of selecting the right people who were kind of low ego, no divas.
Where did you find them?
Friends.
Okay.
Out of the first 20 people we hired, I think 15 or so came out of the same university.
Okay.
And then a couple of, years older or younger than we were. This was kind of our hunting territory for the first couple of people. And that worked well because most of the people we knew anyways. Kind of people kind of sort of knew what type of team they would get themselves into. So that was, the friction only came much later when you start kind of hiring outside of your comfort zone. And then you also sometimes need to, you make wrong choices. You have to let people go where it doesn't work out. You have to have tough conversations. I'm not good at that, but that's part of the game, right?
You have to do it.
I have was a nice quote by my later chairman, because we had to do some organizational change. It was much later, where one of my we had a quasi co-founder, so Garrett, who joined like 6 months after we started the company, and he helped us build sales. So he was a sales guy. But his ambition always was to lead sales and go to market globally for us. He had never worked outside of Germany. He was like very kind of hands-on the deals, and he was a great salesperson. And he was even a great sales manager, but I had the feeling that as we were building like a multi-hundred people team, you needed more of an architect who understands kind of the system versus being on the ground fighting the whole time. And so this was a very tough situation because he wanted to have that role, and I felt like he was not the one. So I started hiring behind his back a very senior person. So how did I get there? Because then I had long conversations with my chairman how we deal with it. And then he said something very empathetic. He said, Gero, you're not a real entrepreneur until you fire a co-founder.
Okay.
And I said, oh, thank you. That helps me a lot in this situation.
Makes it easier, yeah.
And then he basically said, well, you need to in some situations you need to choose between kind of optimizing for friendship and optimizing for the best of the company. And if you're lucky, your friendship survives if you fire him, right? If you're not lucky, then it doesn't.
I mean, I guess this was a tough decision also for you.
Yeah. So I made the choice for the company. And we're still friends. So he stuck around. He then took a regional sales leadership role. So after that incident, he stayed for another 4 or 5 years in the company. And we still see each other like at least once a month. This was an interesting lesson for me to learn. I always thought if you let somebody go, if you fire somebody from the company, this is like the worst thing. First of all, for yourself, because you recruited the wrong person in the first place, and you're such an asshole to let somebody go, right? And time again, I had the experience that it was just the best thing, not only for the team and the company, but also for the individual. Because if things don't work out, if there's like a wrong environment where people can't kind of perform to their own ambition, then it better change it, right? And there's so many job opportunities and things you can possibly do. So if one job doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. It might feel like it, but it's really not.
And I mean, this was certainly a very tough decision. How do you handle your tough decisions? Because I mean, sometimes you really have to. I think this situation was one thing of like, okay, we can go this way or that way, and it really determines how the company will go. How did your tough decision? Was there a ritual? Did you sleep one night, or was it more of like, okay, a quick one, your gut feeling?
So in the end, it was always a combination of a strong gut feel that wouldn't go away. Not kind of an impulse out of the moment. I hate you right now and that's why you're fired. I mean, I was never that type of person.
Yeah.
I tend to be able to kind of control my impulses and not give into it. And rather, take a step back and say, I'll look at this again tomorrow. Maybe the world is different. If it's not, and that kind of gut feeling persists, combined with, I always try to have one or two people that I could have, trusted conversations about everything with, just to make sure that it's not just me alone in my subjective thing. Well, so the moment I started having investors, I worked with my investors a lot.
Okay.
I was lucky. I had very good investors, and they helped me a lot. And I spent a lot of time with them. So with my investors, I would talk at least twice a week.
Okay.
At least twice a week on all kinds of different topics. And we had a shared interest in doing the best for the company, but they also had seen a lot more situations. So that was very valuable context for me that I didn't have.
Okay, maybe you said in one podcast, and what was Felix, that when you were in the US, there was someone talking to you and saying like, breaking kind of your belief of like, okay, what stops you to do 100 million a year? And you said like that this kind of asking the right questions to yourself helps you to overcome these things. How did you from there on do it? Like, did you always ask your investors about these questions? Because mainly it's blind spots a bit you can't see. How did you manage to always then find a new question that brings you forward?
Well, so this was an interesting one because I found this was the most ridiculous question I had ever heard. If you're a company that makes around $1 million in revenue, and they ask you what stops you from making 100 million this year, and it was March. So it was like, how do you scale? How do you grow 100? There's no company that grows 100 times within 1 year. So why would you even ask such a stupid question? But I learned from it, and I still apply it today, kind of to understand what are the limiting factors. I'll give you an example. So at Signavio today, we have around 900 software developers, 900, quite a few. So, and now that we all move towards AI native development, you see anecdotally some things are 30% faster, some are 50% faster, some are 10 times faster, right? Some are 20 times faster now that AI native is here. And so I went back to a couple of people and I asked the question, so if on the individual items we see like a 5 times or 10x productivity increase, what holds us back from delivering 10 times more as an organization, right? Because this is not the thing that we've observed. And then people ask, interesting question. Let's peel back the onion and let's look at, so if we lift one constraint, if the constraint of, it's how fast I type, this is how fast I can write code type of constraint is not there anymore. What other constraints do we suddenly run into, right? So for example, then we noticed, the next constraint that we went into just because of the sheer size of our organization is alignment. So when do you come to a shared understanding about things, and when have you worked through all of the different dependencies with such a massive team, and how can you redesign that to lift that constraint of the organization again? Because in the past this was not the biggest constraint because doing the actual work was so much work. But if doing the actual work has become so much more effective and efficient, So in production, I'm a process optimization guy. In production, it's something that I think exists since the 70s or 80s. It's called the theory of constraints. So if you optimize a production line, the theory of constraints says, always go look for the next best constraint that you can lift, right? To increase throughput or quality or whatever the criterion is that you currently want to optimize, to go do it. There's nice books about that, the theory of constraints. And the same applies to business. It's very helpful because there's always 100 things that you could look at any point in time, right? What about your team culture? What about this? Of course, you can care about 100 things at any point in time. But the more interesting question is, what is currently the biggest constraint that holds you back? And then you lift that, and then you run into the next constraint or the next two constraints, and you start lifting all of that until you have kind of, you're getting closer to your true ability as an organization.
I mean, this is a skill you developed over the years, and what would you say? I guess you developed a lot of skills over the time of the company, for you personally. What would you say is kind of the most important one for you that developed over the time to also make this successful? Because I guess it's also about people and not only the product.
So the biggest one is to retain and optimize, if you will, the energy that you yourself bring to the table, and that you can instill in everybody. Because it's very easy to spend 2 hours with something or 12 hours with something. It's very easy to spend time. It's very easy to be busy. The question is, how do you... you can sit in a meeting and just kind of doze off or think about something completely else, not be engaged, not think hard enough, not challenge assumptions. It's very easy. So a core piece with people-centric organizations, and this is most organizations these days, and software in particular, is how do you find that boundless energy to keep pushing further, to, great, I solved this, how can I make this 5 times, 10 times, 100 times better? And this energy in yourself, but also for the organization, you want to unleash all the time. And in order to be able to do that, you need to have deep introspection about yourself and deeply understand yourself, what you're good at, what you're bad at, what motivates you, what drags you down. How does a perfect day look like for you to keep that energy level high versus getting bogged down or just feeling busy and overwhelmed? Busy and overwhelmed is very easy, right? So if somebody tells me, I ask them, how are you doing? And they say, oh, I'm incredibly busy. And they say, okay, so that means to me you're not doing a good job of, understanding yourself, understanding the contribution you can make and how you should structure your day. Somebody else is doing that for you, or nobody's doing it for you. If somebody's busy, it means they're not doing things right.
Okay, so because my question would also now, I mean, a lot of people here want to found something or are already founding something. What would you recommend them? Which skills to develop? I guess this is one.
Well, so on the kind of hard skill side, I think code gives, focuses on all of the right things. For me, the kind of the climax of the evolution is product management. It's the one discipline that for any tech company contributes 70% of the success. If you get product management right, that's 70%. But you need to understand it pretty broadly, right? You have to understand it as not only kind of owning the roadmap, that would be a very limited view of what product management does, but it's about, you need to see yourself as the connector that brings everything together in a company, that has a deep empathy for everything that goes on and go to market and is able to kind of influence and structure it in the right way that is compatible with the product. You need to have deep empathy for all of the building and the engineering and all of the technical work that goes into a product, and so on and so forth. So on the hard skill side, I think you're in very good shape here at Code, and you should listen very closely to all of the things that you take in here. On the soft skill side is, look, to build a successful company, there's a lot of luck involved, to get together with the right people. The worst thing is if you have a team and you're kind of, where the sum of the parts is less than the individual pieces, where people kind of have negative, kind of bring themselves down, hold each other back. This would be the worst thing. You want to have an environment with the founding team where you lift each other up and where you kind of multiply each other out. And then it's a lot of luck with the topic that you choose, the market that you're in. You just try it out, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But also stay true to yourself and ask yourself, if I look 5 years out, would I hate myself for what I'm doing right now, right? Because I'm treating people badly, or I'm cutting corners in kind of, immoral ways. I think this is what I always try to do, is to say 5 years out, if I look back, would I be ashamed of myself or not? Or would I say, well, given the situation that you were in, it's, that was not too shabby what you did. So that was kind of the gatekeeper for me, to stay sane and also not just only optimize for the moment, but to have some level of sustainability in the company, in the sense of you're not making the world a worse place by what you're doing.
And would you say, I mean, it's a question which can be obvious or not. Would you say everyone can become a great founder, or would you say there are limitations, or you have to have something that you can't develop?
Look, it's extremely demanding to be a founder. It pulls you all in. It consumes you completely. And there's easier context to be a founder in versus others. So, for example, when we started the company, I didn't have kids. I have 3 kids now, so it's very hard for me to imagine starting a company with 3 kids. Also, I just came out of a student lifestyle. For me, a doner kebab was like a luxurious item. So that helps. That helps to kind of stay efficient and not be distracted by too many things. Can everybody be a good founder? I'm not sure.
Why?
I'm not sure. Because you need to be willing to give it all, to give your complete self. You need a lot of intensity to make things work. You can't do, there's no such thing of a 9-to-5 startup. That I have not seen that. You need a level of intensity and urgency, at least in the first couple of years, that consumes you 180%. And the question then is, again, to yourself, are you healthy enough? Are you self-conscious enough to stay sane throughout that? One of my co-founders, he had a near burnout situation 3 years in, because it seemed like he didn't have these self-protection mechanisms, and it ate him up. So he's a great founder, but he suffered from it, right, for many years. Do you need to be the smartest person on the planet? No. Are there, I don't know, 1 or 2 or 3, 4, 5 traits that you absolutely have to have? There's such a big variety of people that end up having very, very successful companies. it helps if you're really in love with the problem that you're trying to solve. So there was some time, especially here in Berlin, where a lot of these people who come out of, business school and they're very good at, building a nice PowerPoint, and then after 6 months we sell the company to the American original type of thing. I mean, I never understood the concept, and it hasn't proved very successful. So those companies that are wildly successful are those where people fall in love with a problem, and then adjust over time of trying to get closer and closer and closer and closer to providing good solutions to it.
Okay. Maybe one more question from me, and then I would love to open it up to the audience that they can also ask you some questions. I mean, you sold your company. I think money-wise, you're good. But I
was good a lot earlier than that.
2015, right?
2015, because we did a secondary sale already.
Yeah, but now it's even more.
Yeah.
And what now for you? Because, I mean, some people, when they did the money, they, for example, start a new company. As far as I know, you're still with Signavio. And
SAP more broadly.
Yeah, SAP now, yeah, because they bought them. But would you stay there, or do you want to start something new at some point? What are you now most interested about?
So I love learning, and this is a wonderful time that we live in because all of the cards get reshuffled in the enterprise software space, especially through agentic. And we're in the very, very early innings. When you look at the press and what's being discussed out there, it's mostly infrastructure that we're discussing. A little bit of the shovels, but we haven't, so agentic AI hasn't really started proliferating out there. It only started this year, but next year, the year after, are going to be crazy. So I enjoy I'm just coming out of a offsite this week at SAP. So I'm part of it's called Product and Engineering Leadership Team, where all of the kind of product leads for ERP and for CRM and for all of the different product groups come together. And it's interesting because our task right now is to reinvent SAP. It's a company that is there for more than 50 years. We're right now the second most valuable public company in Europe. The only tech company in Europe with global significance. So we're 40,000 software developers. 40,000. So it's a monumental task to take something that has been so great for the last 50 years and so wildly successful, and not throw everything away, but kind of keep coming back to your core strengths. But reinvent that for the world for the next 50 years that is ahead of us. So I find that very interesting. And I like that because it's, the world is moving fast from a technology point of view, but also from a market dynamics point of view. So staying up to date on that is just cool and interesting. And we do get kind of the early insights. So for example, SAP is one of the top 3 customers for AWS, also for GCP, Google Cloud Platform, and for Azure. For all 3, we're among the top 3 customers in the world. So we, with the hyperscales, for instance, and Google is doing very interesting things these days and giving OpenAI a very hard time. It's interesting to be even in the know, kind of way ahead of them going public and bringing stuff to market. So it's great to be part of that and see what's going on in the world. But then how do you take all of these people along? How do you take customers along? How do you develop the right level of confidence also for yourself to say, this is it and nothing else, and this is what we're going to do now? And deviate from what you've done in the past and say, these 5,000 people, from tomorrow on, they do something completely different. Go. Right, Gero, are you sure? Yes. So to get to a level of confidence at that scale is also a very interesting exercise, because you never know everything, and
you have to try out.
It's always operating in a fog That's always, it's the same in a startup as well as in a big setting like this. You always have fog around you. You try to, where's the next obstacle? It's very similar.
Yeah, I see. Okay, then Gero, thank you very much for answering the question and giving so nice insights. And yeah, I would now give it to the audience. Whoever has questions can raise their hand. There's a question. Do we have the microphone also? So that we have also your question on.
Yep. So it's more about the thing that you have mentioned before. You told me when someone is saying I'm busy, it means that he's not doing good. Where does the standard comes from? And I also have noticed, like, sometimes I'm also going through downward spiral of like very hectic moments, like things are getting escalated. So sometimes like a lot of responsibilities come up like at once. And if that happens to you as a founder of the startup, how do you manage those problems?
Yeah. Busy tends to have a very negative connotation, right? And the opposite for me is that you have the feeling you're doing the right thing, right? You have a moment of flow, right? It's something where you also go in with a lot of intensity and urgency and everything, and you spend a significant amount of time, but you have the feeling that you're doing the right thing, right? You would not say I'm busy. You would say I had so much fun working on this project all night. Right?
Yeah, I also have noticed this because like usually the moment that I feel busy, it's more about I'm subconsciously dealing the things. I'm just like tossing the things to my coping mechanism, and then my body's being busy, but my consciousness is not. It's not working.
Well, one of the tricks that works for me is try to do only one thing at the time. So now that I'm sitting here with you, I'm not thinking about anything else. My mind doesn't wander. I'm here, right? And I'm only in this conversation and nowhere else. So sometimes I find myself deviating from that principle, right? For example, when I go to bed, I should not think about the company, right?
How do you cut off? Because like sometimes like thoughts just get continued and then...
So my trick is I always have a notebook, a physical notebook, piece of paper and a pen next to my bed. Whenever a thought pops to my head where I know this thought doesn't belong here right now, I take a sheet of paper, I write it down, and I say, thank you, dear thought, I have not acknowledged you, but I will deal with you later. And then I look at it the next morning. If you look at it the next morning, you'll find how ridiculous it is. and imagine you had thought, half an hour or an hour at night about this problem. What a waste of time. So this was the trick that helped for me. So at night, I can sleep very well. Because this mechanism of acknowledging thoughts as they come, noting them down, and dealing with them later, kind of stop stupid thoughts to come in the wrong moments. That's just a thing that developed over time.
Nice.
So the strategy is you make the situation to not multitask, just focus one thing at
Correct.
once.
I'm horrible at multitasking. I develop headache. I can really feel it physically when I start multitasking. I start to feel bad very, very quickly.
And physical journaling also helps.
Say again?
Physical journaling,
yes.
like writing down on the notebook also.
Yeah,
helps.
I have physical journeys. I have my to-do app on the phone, right? So whenever something pops to my head, I note it down as a to-do in that list, and then I stop thinking about it. And then I go back to that maybe, at the end of the day or whenever I have the time. And then I find like deleting 80% of that again because it feels unimportant.
Do you also have a problem like opening up your phone and then check your to-do app and suddenly get distracted by YouTube and start scrolling? Like that's a problem, like that's a serious problem that I have. That's also like one of the reasons why I don't bring my phone, to be honest. Because I get
don't
distracted
have that.
pretty. Yeah. I have that, so.
I don't have that. I switch off all notifications, right? No WhatsApp, no email, no nothing kind of pings me on the phone. The only thing that would cause a ping is if somebody calls me. Because then I can choose when am I ready to receive information versus other choosing when I should receive it.
Maybe pick up someone else. Question? Next to you.
There's a trick, by the way, with YouTube and everything that I found is powerful for myself. Switch your phone to grayscale.
Does it really work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's proven. It sends a lot less dopamine to your head, inside of your head. And you will see your kind of Instagram, TikTok, whatever time reduces dramatically if you look at it grayscale.
Next question.
So, I think from what I've gathered, one of the things that made you great is kind of being very specific with how you spend your time. Also, like from the quality of the time that you invest to the output. I'm wondering, do you have any questions that you ask yourself to really be sure about what to say no to? Because I think nowadays it's very, very difficult because there are so many opportunities coming our way, especially as young people, to choose, okay, what do I actually want to prioritize? Where do I want to spend 100% of my time with 100% of my focus?
Yeah. So two things. So for some things where I already have learned patterns from the past, I try to have a certain set of rules for myself. So for example, every day people come to me and say, Gero, I have this great startup. Can I pitch it to you? I want you as my business angel. And I say, I don't invest as a business angel, full stop. Thank you. No. Well, tell me about your startup for a couple of minutes. Happy to listen, but if that's with the goal of me investing into your company, I can tell you no. Because otherwise I find myself ending up getting to a rabbit hole, and it's like, it's my social media scrolling, because I get fascinated by a ton of things, and I wouldn't stop scrolling and spending all of that time with it. And this is a protection mechanism for me to say, I won't even go to certain places. That's a rule, it's a pattern I have learned. It's bad for me. And then the other things you're unsure about. So I started at a certain point in time doing a daily sentiment checker. So daily sentiment checker was a Google spreadsheet. I still have it, but it's weekly now. Where every day is one row. And I have a couple of columns where I know these are things that are important to me or that drive me crazy, right? So for example, if I note down, do I have the feeling that I wasted my time on a scale from 1 to 10? Or did I learn something interesting on a scale from 1 to 10 on that day? Because I know learning correlates a lot with kind of a feeling of satisfaction. But this is highly personal. What is important to you? And then I note it down for every day, what are my highlights and what are my lowlights of the day, right? This exercise takes me 5 minutes maximum per day, but it's a great reflection because over time, you start seeing patterns show up, right? High scores in certain areas or very low scores correlate with certain things that happen throughout that day, right? But this again then helps you to kind of develop patterns and rule sets that you can start optimizing for. For example, I feel I waste my time. It correlates with spending significant amount of time in meetings with more than 10 people. If there are more than 10 people in a meeting, I switch off. I disengage. I don't know why that is the case, but I feel like if there's 10 other people in the call, they might as well think about this. I'm not required. So suddenly and I was not aware of this pattern, but I suddenly discovered this pattern. And now I'm just saying bluntly no to meetings with more than 10 people. Right? Somebody invite me to a conversation, I look at how many people are there, more than 10, no, thank you, I'm not coming. I have better things to do. You can figure it out without me. Right? Invite me, if you want to have a conversation with 3 people or 4 people, then I find myself being effective. But more than 10 people, no. Sorry.
Thank you so much. I think that makes a lot of sense to kind of keep yourself accountable with where you go in life to identify patterns. Second question I have, with a really quick third follow-up, which leads in the second question. Would you say, do you have any specific habit, because you've already touched on quite a few very cool ones, that you would say was kind of like your favorite driving force throughout your journey? And then third follow-up question, do you meditate?
I don't meditate. I have one rule or one trick that helped me manage stress, and that was the 3-3 or 5-5-5 type of rule. You ask yourself, does it matter in 5 minutes? Does it matter in 5 hours or in 5 days? Does it matter in 5 years? Or you choose the time scales, but you want to have different time scales. And only if it matters on all time scales, there is urgency. If it doesn't matter on any one of these time scales, there's no need to stress out. No need. For example, my kid is currently playing on a cliff and it's like 20 meters high, and he's he might fall down. It matters on all 3 time scales.
Yeah,
you better do something about it.
Okay, thanks.
Right? Or it's, somebody just wrote you a nasty email, which upsets you a lot. Will it matter in 5 years? You won't even remember that email. Why care? And say, oh, thank you. Thanks for your message. Noted. Or whatever the message says. Thank you, but no thank you.
Okay, maybe one more question, and then I think when you still have time, people can approach you and talk to you, because we also have the breakfast.
You mentioned like someone said to you that you're not a true entrepreneur if you haven't fired a co-founder. So I was wondering, like in your specific fix, do you think the lesson to be learned is that you could have like chosen a better co-founder, or like he was the right co-founder to begin with, but it just somewhere along the way it falls out? Or
I think the learning is not that specific.
Okay.
The learning is more broadly, running a company will demand things of you that will make you extremely uncomfortable, or that might go, counter a lot of, assumptions and beliefs, and that are inherently hard to do. I think this is the bigger learning from this.
yeah.
Do you need to fire your co-founder to run a successful company? No.
Yeah.
Right? But it might be one of those things required to building a successful company, and this is where kind of the touchy-feely part ends. If you're a founder of a company, if you're a self-employed individual, right? This is all about optimizing your quality of life and everything. If you're the founder of the company, the goal is to build just a phenomenal company, right? And that's the main goal. And if you do a really, really good job, you have built something amazing that doesn't require you to be involved, right? This is the ultimate goal of every entrepreneur, of building something truly great that runs without you, right? This is the design goal.
What is your criteria for like choosing a co-founder now, and has it changed like after all these years?
So, I would always found a company with 3 people, not 2 and not 4, and not alone. Alone is horrible, because it's all on your shoulder. 2, the danger of one person getting into a fight, one person leaving early, things not to work out is just so high that you're back to square one where you're alone. So for example, LeanIX, company that we also acquired, but we've known each other for a long time. Andre, Chris, they founded the 2 of them. His co-founder was like 20 years older or whatever. So at some point he said, "Oh, I'm ready for retirement," more or less, right? And he left the company. So for the last couple of years, Andre was there all alone, and it's a heavy burden. It takes a heavy toll because everybody just looks at you the whole time. It's exhausting. So we were 4, and then we had kind of a 5th quasi-co-founder. Then the danger is that you might find yourself in a situation where it's just getting into herding cats to get anywhere as a founding team. So 3 for me is the perfect number. And then you want to bring different perspectives to it. A very smart person once told me you need 4 characters in every founding team. One is the James Bond, jumping out of the airplane with your weapon loaded at any point in time, no risk that you feel, you go into everything. Daniel Düsentrieb, in English it's Gary Decker, the person who always has like wild and creative ideas and is a fountain of wild ideas. And Albert Einstein, the person who will always find the 15 reasons why something will not work and will analyze things deeply and understand the root cause of everything with the aim of showing you that it's not working. And the 4th one is Willy Brandt, so you can say a German told me this. Willy Brandt as the person who always seeks harmony and kind of equal and balance and participation and inclusion and everybody feeling kind of part of it, so that the team doesn't fall apart in the intensity but kind of rallies together. So I found that very interesting, and you have people who have multiple of these aspects in them. Right?
Which character are you?
That's a usual follow-up question. So I had the role of mostly the James Bond plus the Gary Decker. So I would never understand. I never have a doubt that things don't work. I always believe things will work. Right? And I can give you 15 different alternative paths that we could try, and I typically believe that all 15 will work. Right? That's kind of my going-in assumption. So the Albert Einstein, I'm the opposite of that, and Willy Brandt, for me, oftentimes, kind of in the midst of the fight, I forget about bringing everybody in and kind of taking 3 steps back, and this is not my strong suit. And there are other people who say, like, Gero, we just lost 90% of the people on the path that we're currently on. Oh, really? I didn't notice. I was so busy. Like,
Come back. All right,
Yeah.
then,
Thank you.
Gero, thank you very much.